Things haven't really gone West Indies cricket way over the last couple of years. Both the 2021 and the 2022 Cricket World Cup didn't go as per plan for the great West Indies side. The West Indies side that of course has put the stage on fire historically as well as in recent times. But there is a report that's now been submitted, and one of the comments in that report says that some measures need to be taken, otherwise the West Indies cricket could cease to exist. Well, let's just hope all of those things and all those extremes don't really happen, and we'll talk you through all the details of the report. But let's first tell you who's filed this report. This report has been filed by a 3-member committee that was formed after the unceremonious exit of the West Indies side from the 2022 World Cup. Remember, they didn't have a good 2021 World Cup either, and after which this panel was formed, and the job that was given to this panel was to identify and analyze as to what the deficiencies of West Indies cricket was. They've now filed a report couple of months after the World Cup ended. They've finally filed a report, and we're here to talk about what these recommendations or the findings of these reports have been. Two key figures in this report we must tell you about, the two key figures in this panel rather. One of course was Brian Lara, who served West Indies cricket and he's made a name for himself, and you really don't need to talk about Brian Lara any further. Second of course was Mickey Arthur. So Mickey Arthur and Brian Lara were two of the 3 members that were in this panel, and they've submitted their report to Cricket West Indies. Let's now without further ado tell you what the report is all about and what are some of the recommendations as well. But before we get to the recommendations, quickly let's just have a look at the findings of this report. First things first, Cricket West Indies were underprepared. That's what has been told by this report to Cricket West Indies, that the West Indies side going into the 2022 World Cup were rather underprepared. And why they say that? They say that because the players had negligible experience of top flight cricket, and that that sort of reflected in the manner in which the West Indies cricket team really played over there. They lost that game to Scotland. Later on they did manage to win against the Zimbabwe team, but then lost to Ireland, and that confirmed their early exit from the tournament. Very disappointing for 2-time champions to be out in such a manner. And of course the other thing that was highlighted by this report was that there was no camp that was organized in Australia. A lot was being said about the conditions. Remember, the CPL had happened just a couple of weeks before the World Cup, and that really did not help, and the pitches over there in West Indies over there weren't really helping the team over here, because in Australia the conditions were very different to those in the Caribbean. So conditions were very different, and the players weren't really given enough time to acclimatize to the change in environment. No camp was being organized, and the CPL had little impact in terms of preparing the players. So that was one of the findings that this report has put out. One of the other findings that the report said is the absence of Hetmeyer was a significant loss. Well, of course we all remember that Shimron Hetmeyer was in the squad, but he could not make it in time. He couldn't be on the flight to Australia, and as a result, because of indiscipline, he was not then taken to Australia, and well, West Indies surely missed him, and they went on to say that his absence was significant in terms of the loss in the batting unit. One of the other things that the report says is that the best 11 were not fielded, and that's also to say that the team hadn't played together as a unit. We know with Cricket West Indies, the thing with them is there are a lot of these superstar players in, and Andre Russell, Sunil Narayan, Jason Holder, Shimron Hetmeyer, Nicholas Bruhn, so many of these names, but they failed to play together, and many of them in fact have had contract tussles over the last few years with Cricket West Indies. So that also is one of the reasons that this report highlights is why Cricket West Indies haven't really done well in the last 2 World Cups that have happened. One of the other things then that report says is that playing in T20 leagues cannot come at the detriment of Cricket West Indies. So that's also being very clearly been mentioned, because as I said, these players play in the other franchise leagues all across the globe. They make themselves available, and at times the players have gone ahead and said that they're not available because they're busy playing in some other franchise or in some other part of the world. So very clearly it's been mentioned that it cannot come, playing for other franchises cannot come at the detriment of West Indies cricket. Also, one of the other things that has been said in this has been the fact that the board and the players must have an honest discussion. This is also something that has been said in terms of the recommendations that have been given to Cricket West Indies. A recommendation that's been given is that the board and the players must have an honest discussion, and that they must come together and discuss everything. A 3-day retreat has also been suggested, and over these 3 days key stakeholders must be present. That's what the report says. Moving on, let's just talk about the key recommendations that have been given over here. Now, one of the key recommendations that have been given is that it's a golden opportunity to hit the reset button. That's what this report says. Now, why it says so is because, remember, the next edition of the World Cup is only in 2024, the T20 World Cup, that's to say, and it is going to be hosted in the USA as well as the West Indies. So the West Indies are going to be co-hosts in the 2024 edition, and this could just be the right time for them to hit the reset button. That's what the report suggests. One of the other things it suggests is that Cricket West Indies must shortlist 30 to 35 players, and then a nucleus of 15 players can be picked for the World Cup. Remember, there's the Cricket World Cup, the 50-over World Cup that's happening in India later this year, perhaps in the month of October, November, and then you're looking at the 2024 T20 World Cup. So with 2 World Cups coming up, what they've suggested is that they have a shortlist or a pool of about 30 to 35 players. Pick about 11 to 12 players in each format, identify these core groups in all the 3 formats, and then as a result you can have a pool of about 30 to 35 players. Play them as much as possible. And the other recommendation, this is the key part here, what this committee suggests is that play red ball cricket as much as possible. A lot of stress being given to red ball cricket here. Why? Because the committee feels that there are superior nations like Australia, India, England and South Africa who are far superior in red ball cricket to West Indies at the moment, and playing against these top sides is only going to help the players become better. Yes, of course the formats are going to be different, but it's these quality sides that you play that helps you hone your skills, and that's what was suggested by this panel. So a lot of these suggestions being made to revive Cricket West Indies because it's been in shambles, but the 3-day retreat program, as I said earlier, will be holding the key, because that's when you'll have all the stakeholders come together, the players, the president, the directors and the other key stakeholders. They must come together, talk everything out, iron out, and then plan forward. And as suggested, perhaps look at building a core group of about 30-35 players, and around these players then you can have, you can decide, okay, these are going to be the players who are going to be playing in a certain format, then another 10 to 12 players who fit in the white ball scheme of thing, and maybe the others who can be looked at as potentials to play test cricket for the West Indies. But the West Indies cricket finally has the report with itself now, after, remember, 2 back-to-back disappointing T20 World Cups. They formed this committee, and these recommendations have now been given to them, a committee which had the likes of Brian Lara and Mickey Arthur. You let us know in the comments section whether these suggestions could indeed be helpful in terms of reviving West Indies cricket. What do you have to feel about these suggestions, or if there's any suggestion that you perhaps have for Cricket West Indies, let us know in the comment section below. For now, my name is Harshit Ahuja. Thank you so much for watching this video.